Essential phone, and no it's not. It's just a super thin little line up here at the top, covered in some kind of fabric. It'll be interesting to see the shape of the speaker and the audio chip. Extremely flush with the back panel though, is great aesthetically, but not when you're trying to keep. The sides of this phone are made from titanium, which is a level 6. There's a pretty sweet little plastic rim. Plastic is much more forgiving than metal, so even this minor ring pressed up against the glass will help keep pressure off the glass during a drop. If this phone survives the rest of my tests, and enough people request it, of headphone jack. This phone really is just the bare essentials, which means it's barely useful if you forget to bring or charge your headphones. Per Galaxy Note 8 S5, so no worries about damage there. The earpiece is also solid metal and looks like won't ever fall out on its own. Video taking apart the Samsung. You can check that barely enough to protect the camera lens when you set it down on a table. It's still a good idea to be gentle. Right next to the two lenses, the fingerprint scanner is the first thing that my razor can damage. Stuck all the way up here, solid metal sides of the Note 8. In typical Samsung fashion, the metal wraps all around the phone and includes the quality metal buttons. Up here at the top, we have the SIM and SD card tray, and over on the other side, the permanent Best Buddy Bixby button. It has the fast-charging USB-C port, as well as the ever-convenient headphone jack. When you need, the edge of the stylus has metal on it as well, keeping that same premium feeling all around the edge of the phone. One thing that has accumulated though during the HTC U11, the fingerprint touchpad has the same glossy feel as the screen does. It is definitely scratchable. It is slightly recessed below the glass, so this level of the earpiece is also recessed way below the front glass. The flash is still plastic. Samsung managed to tuck their flash under the glass panel, which I think looks and feels a little bit better, but a plastic flash is not a big issue. Now the sides. Pure metal. The volume button is also metal, and the easy to find in your pocket textured power button is also metal. Up here by the SIM tray and the SD card tray is metal, but there is no headphone jack, which is disappointing. One good thing though is that the Bixby button doesn't exist here either. Down at the bottom we have one of the two loudspeakers and the USB-C charging port. One feature along the sides that is completely unique to this phone and no other device is the inside of a plastic frame. The U11 implemented a new 3D curved glass screen that is more rigid and also left off the plastic buffer between the glass and the metal. So when pressure is applied, the Samsung had a rigid frame and curved glass, and that phone survives just fine. But the combination of curved glass and the U11 will fail before the frame does, rendering the phone inoperable. As you see, Nokia 3310, a pic started catching at level 3 to level 4. The screen of this new Nokia, since plastic does handle drops better. The physical buttons are made of plastic. I tried texting on the T9 pad for kicks and giggles, and even though it's been 10 years since I've owned a T9 phone, it all came back to me surprisingly quick, just like riding a bike. The sides of the phone are made from plastic, and the top of the genuine 3310 radio, as well as an internal SD card slot inside the phones these days. The phone's complaining beeps drowned out the scratches a little bit, but you can tell the phone is pure plastic all over. There's no screeching metal on metal. A little known fact that starting with the Nokia 6110 in 1998, Snake was actually a two-player game, connecting two phones in real time via an infrared port at the top of the phone. Kind of like how the old Game Boys could connect to battle Pokemon, the Nokia 6110 would allow the phones to join their snakes and compete for apples in one game. And the first snake to crash lost the game. Pretty impressive for old technology. Unfortunately, this new Nokia 3310 doesn't come with an infrared. One thing I would change on this phone's design is the camera lens. It is made of plastic. Switching to glass be budget and durable, so I don't blame them too much. The Nokia 3. Back of the phone is where we run into our first issue, a plastic camera lens. The camera itself is 8 megapixels and only films in 720p, but at the same time, panel is made from plastic. Like most budget phones, plastic is cheaper to work with than metal, and plastic is fine. While the plastic scratching sound isn't as immensely satisfying as metal on metal that we've grown to love, art class with Jerry is still a thing. And look, the beautiful white background is now a snowflake. The sides of the phone are made from metal, which is a pleasant surprise on a budget phone. Even the buttons are made from metal. Usually budget phone manufacturers slip in some. The top of the phone has a headphone jack, which adds to the convenience. It even has an SD card slot on the side for expandable memory. This budget Android phone makes an excellent upgrade. The bottom of the phone does have a micro USB slot, and not the USB-C that is becoming standard. LG G6. Nothing protrudes past the glass layer, including the metal earpiece grill. From a design perspective, it looks absolutely amazing, but that also means if you set the phone face down on a granite counter, scanner and home button are back here, ideally centered exactly in the middle of the phone. As I scratch this scanner, it does not have the gleam of metal shows through on both of the volume buttons. Down the length of the side is also real metal. Definitely no coating or paint here. Even up here next to the headphone jack is metal. And over here, the SIM card tray is metal as well. It's nice when companies pay attention to the little details. Down here by the USB-C port at the bottom, we find more metal. This phone is water resistant with USB-C Moto G5 pad. It's not a button, just a touchpad. With normal wear and tear, I think the rubber coating will keep away most cosmetic scratches. But even with the deeper, more harmful an advertisement is, well, an advertisement. But my razor blade only tells the truth. The razor blade of truth is currently attached to the headphone jack, which always gets bonus points for me, is also made of plastic. And useful as long as possible. And to make a long-lasting phone, manufacturers need to make them durable. The Note 7 was an incredible environmental fiasco. One of the many ways to help the environment, they are usually worth money, and someone, somewhere, the sides of the phone are made from plastic. Even the power and volume buttons are made of plastic. So I wouldn't get too excited about the original iPhone. The home button does not contain a fingerprint scanner and is made of plastic, but it does still have that satisfying physical antenna chunk. This black plastic section of the phone makes up a pretty large portion of the device body, and is definitely not the most aesthetic looking piece in the day. Lucky for us, the silver portion of the phone is indeed real metal. Solid, cold, and quality feeling in the hand. And look, it's an apple tree. Incredibly small circle up here in the top corner is the 2 megapixel camera lens for picture taking. Video capabilities were not introduced until the iPhone 3GS 2 years later in 2009 either. The side volume buttons are made from plastic, and even this mute switch is made from plastic, and the bottom of the phone near the 30-pin charging port is also plastic. There are a lot of different materials used in the build of this phone. The chrome-looking metal around the screen is much harder resistant as well, and this is good if you ever were to set your phone face down on something or drop it. The lip around the screen would not be damaged or flake away like what happened with the plastic lip of the Galaxy S5. Xiaomi Mi6. And the metal earpiece sits completely flat with the surface of the screen. Now, one of the main problems I had with the Mi 5 was the inferior metal outing. The lightweight to snap in half completely during my bend test. But with the Mi 6, my razor blade is able to scratch the surface of the metal, but unable to carve out any shaving, except for the lack of upgradable storage. The dual SIM card tray is metal, but the phone does not allow SD card memory expansion. Until I realized there are not enough holes. It is missing the headphone jack entirely. I'm definitely not a fan of removing still relevant and useful features from cell phones. Like I said earlier, Xiaomi does claim the phone is splash-proof, and I'm sure removing the head product red iPhone 7. And it looks like Apple has kept with that same theme on this red version. The top is metal. The red iPhone 7 still has those plastic antenna lines that curve around the corners. It blends in pretty well with the metal, even if it doesn't sound as delicious during the scratch test. The sides are metal as well. And it's even metal down here where the headphone jack should be. And for the ultimate perk and quality, the buttons are also metal. It should be pretty resilient as well. We're gonna find out. If you were to toss your unprotected cell phone into the same pocket as your keys, the red is just coins seem to have the same effect as keys. It's almost as if the keys and coins are rubbing off onto the red instead of the red getting damaged. The center apple looks like it's made from polished aluminum. My razor blade can definitely mark it up. Product red are pretty interesting. They've raised more than $130 million for the global fund to fight AIDS. That's pretty impressive. Another notable contributor to the global fund is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They've contributed about $1.4 billion since 2001. And if you know Bill Gates is donating to something, it's gotta be good. It's great to see two huge organizations contributing to something so impactful and life-saving on a global scale. Gates Foundation for contributing. If you're interested in donating to the Global Fund to Fight AIDS but don't want to buy an iPhone, Apple has scraped off some of that red coating. Kind of interesting.